What are your funniest, not safe for work jokes? Well, folks, in case it's not obvious, there has had to be a fair bit of swapping out some words for more YouTube-safe alternatives. I think the jokes still work out just fine, though. A mother, father, and 6-year-old son go to a zoo, where they stop to see the elephant. While the father's in the bathroom, the son notices one elephant has a rather large member. Curious, he gets his mum's attention. "Mommy, what's that hanging from the elephant?" "Oh, that's the trunk, honey." "No, further back." "Oh, you mean its tail?" "No, between its legs. That. What is that?" The mother goes red. "Oh, that's nothing, honey." The father returns and the mother goes off to use the bathroom. Still curious, the son asks his dad, "Daddy, what's that hanging from the elephant?" "His trunk, son." "No, further back." "You mean his tail?" "No, that thing, between his legs." "Oh, that. Well, that's the elephant's wang." "Oh, why did Mummy say it was nothing?" "Son, I have spoiled that woman." This one always gets a laugh on construction sites. Little Tommy was about 5 years old. One day he was being a bit of a handful and annoying his mother. His mother said to him, "Timmy, why don't you go across the street and watch the builders work for a while?" Timmy returned home a few hours later and his mother asked him, "Timmy, what did you learn from watching the builders work?" Timmy replied, "Well, first you put the goddamned door up, then the mother fricker doesn't fit, so you have to take that son of a witch back down. Then you have to shave 2 C-word hairs off each side, and then you have to put that wang-sucking door back up." Timmy's mother was gobstruck, and all she could say was, "Just wait until your father gets home." A couple of hours later, Timmy's father gets home. Timmy's mother tells Timmy to tell his father what he'd learned. Timmy repeats what he's learned. "Well, first you put the goddamn door up, then the mother fricker doesn't fit, so you have to take that son of a witch back down. Then you have to shave 2 C-word hairs off each side, and then you have to put that clock-sucking door back up." Timmy's father looked at Timmy with a look of anger and disappointment and said, "Timmy, go outside right now and fetch me a switch." Timmy replied, "Frick you, that's the electrician's job." 3 men got stranded on a desert island. After walking around for a while, they're found by some tribesmen. The natives take them back to their hut. The chief tells them, "Go out into the jungle and collect 10 pieces of fruit." The first guy returns with 10 apples and the chief says, "Now, shove them all up your butt without showing any emotion or we'll kill you." He shoves the first up and is in terrible pain but shows no emotion, but during the process of pushing up the second, he flinches and therefore gets killed. The second guy comes back with 10 cherries and gets told to do the same. He's finding it relatively easy, but when he gets to the 8th, he starts laughing hysterically and gets shot. He meets the first guy in the afterlife, and the guy asks, "Why did you do that? Why did you laugh?" And the second guy replies, "Well, I'd nearly finished when I saw the next guy walking up with 10 pineapples." An Aussie is on holiday driving through New Zealand when he spots a bloke in a paddock doing the deed with a sheep. The Aussie pulls his car over and yells out to the Kiwi fella, "Mate, in Australia we shear those." The Kiwi turns and yells back, "I'm not shearing this one, bro. You can get your own frickin' one." Honestly, you would be surprised at how many jokes in this thread just seem to be the Kiwis and Aussies slandering each other. I might try to spread out those jokes a little bit. A man buys a pack of prophylactics at the pharmacy. The pharmacist says, "Large pack, huh?" The guy buying says, "Yeah, I'm meeting my girlfriend's parents tonight. After dinner, when we go home, we'll be getting it on." Later at the dinner, the guy is praying before he eats his food. His girlfriend says, "I didn't know you were religious." The guy replies, "I didn't know your dad was a pharmacist." A ventriloquist is going for a walk through the countryside. It's a hot day and the sun is beating down on him and he's getting tired and needs a break when he spots a farmhouse. The old farmer that lives there is sitting on his porch in a rocking chair, so the ventriloquist walks up and asks if he can have a glass of water and a shady spot to sit for a bit. The farmer misses having company, so him and the ventriloquist begin chatting while the ventriloquist rests. Now, this ventriloquist has a mischievous side and comes up with an idea. He asks the farmer, "I see you have this big farm here. Can I see some of the animals?" And the farmer gladly brings him around to the barn. First, they see a pig, and the ventriloquist walks up to it and says, "Hello there, Mr. Pig. How's life on the farm?" Then, using his skills as a ventriloquist, he makes it seem as though the pig replies to him by saying, "I love it here. I've got plenty of food and plenty of mud to roll around in." The farmer nearly falls over in shock, exclaiming, "Oh my stars, it can talk!" The ventriloquist nods seriously and asks what other animals he has. So the farmer brings him over to an old horse. The ventriloquist asks, "Hello, Mrs. Horse. How are you on this fine day?" To which the horse appears to reply, "Another beautiful day out here in the countryside. Plenty of room to graze in, clean water to drink, and clean hay to sleep on." Again, the farmer can't believe what he's seeing. "All this time and I never knew they could talk," he says. Then the ventriloquist spots some sheep in a pen nearby and says, "Hey, do you mind if I say hello to the sheep?" The farmer's face goes bright red and shouts, "Don't you talk to those sheep! They're liars! Everyone knows those sheep are damn liars!" A guy and a girl meet up in a hospital elevator. The girl says, "I'm here to give blood. They give me $10 every time I give blood. What are you here for?" The man says, "I'm here to donate semen. They give me $50 every time I donate." They go their separate ways until a week later when the man sees the girl rushing for the elevator. He holds the door open for her until she gets in. "Here to donate blood again?" he asks. She shakes her head. Father comes home and little Johnny comes running in tears. Dad, Sparky died. I came home and he was lying on his back with his feet in the air." Dad tries to find the right words, eventually explains, "Sparky is reaching up so Jesus can reach down and take him to heaven." Johnny mulls this over. It makes sense and he feels better. Weeks later, Johnny comes running out in a state of panic. Dad, Mommy almost died today." "Oh my God, what happened?" "I came home early from school and heard moaning. Mommy was on her back with her feet in the air screaming, 'Jesus, I'm coming!' And if it wasn't for Uncle Bobby holding her down, we would have lost her for sure." An old man is sitting on his porch and he sees a kid walking by carrying a roll of duct tape. Old guy yells out, "Hey kid, where are you going with that duct tape?" "Gonna catch me some ducks," says the kid. "What? You can't catch ducks with duct tape," he yells back, but the kid continues on his way. A couple of hours later, the kid is walking back the other way, carrying 4 ducks wrapped in duct tape. The old man can't believe it. The next day, the old guy is sitting on his porch again, and he sees the kid walking by. This time he's got a roll of chicken wire under his arm. The old guy yells out, "Hey kid, where are you going with that chicken wire?" "Gonna catch me some chickens," says the kid. "Seriously? You can't catch chickens with chicken wire," he yells back, but once again, the kid just continues on his way. Later that day, the kid walks back the other way and sure enough, he's got half a dozen chickens wrapped up in the chicken wire. The old guy is astounded. Next day, once again, the old guy is sitting out on his porch and he sees the kid walking in front of his house. He yells out, "Hey kid, what you got under your arm there?" "Pussy willow," says the kid. "Hang on, I'll go get my hat." An Australian is in New Zealand working on a sheep farm with a bunch of kiwis. After a couple of weeks, he goes to one of them and says, "Hey mate, where are all the girls at? I haven't been laid in ages." The kiwi says, "Nearest girl is 3 hours away. What we do here when we get in the mood is head down to the paddock, pick us out a sheep, and give it a good rooting." The Aussie is naturally disgusted, but as the weeks go by, he grows more and more desperate. Finally, he sneaks down to a secluded paddock, creeps up on a sheep, drops trow, and starts going to town. Almost immediately, he hears all the other farmhands laughing at him. Trying to quickly pull his pants back up, he yells, "I thought all you guys did it." "We do," replied one of the Kiwis, "but you picked the ugly one." Well, I told you there'd be a few of these, didn't I? These two countries really have an axe to grind with each other, it seems. My girlfriend tried to make me do the deed with her on the hood of her Honda Civic. I refused. If I'm going to do it on a Honda, it's going to be on my own accord. What's the difference between a pickpocket and a peeping Tom? A pickpocket snatches watches. Kinda like the difference between a magic show and a burlesque show. What's the difference? Well, a magic show is a cunning array of stunts. How about the difference between an epileptic cornhusker and a working girl with diarrhea? Alright, what's the difference? An epileptic cornhusker shucks between fits. Man walks by a shop. There's a sign out front that says, cheese sandwiches $1, pull jobs $5. So he walks in and sees a beautiful blonde standing behind the counter. "Are you the woman who gives pull jobs?" She says, "Why yes I am," in a very flirty tone. He says, "Well, wash them hands and make me a cheese sandwich." This is my go-to joke. Gets a laugh every time. There's a bar right outside the town I live in that's a hot spot for people driving through town. One night, this guy walks in and sees a jar full of $10, $20, $50, and even a couple of $100 bills in there. So he asks the bartender, "How does somebody win that tip jar?" The bartender says, "That's for anyone who can make the horse in the back laugh." So he strolls to the back where the horse is, closes the door, and a couple of minutes later, he walks out and the horse is laughing uncontrollably. He casually takes the tip jar on his way out. A couple of months later, he enters the same bar and sees an even bigger jar full of cash. So he asks the bartender how to win this one. That's for anyone who can make the horse stop laughing. The man gets up, walks to the back, and sure enough, a couple of minutes later he walks out and the horse is dead silent. The man grabs the tip jar and is walking away, and the bartender says, "Hey, wait! I gotta know, how did you do it?" The man says, "Well, the first time I told him my wang was bigger than his, and the second time I showed him." 3 men are at the gates of heaven. St. Peter says, "Heaven is a big place. You'll need a vehicle to get around. You'll get one based on how faithful you were to your partner." The first man says, "In our decades of marriage, never once was I even attracted to another woman. I was only faithful to my wife." St. Peter gives him a Rolls Royce. The second man says, "Well, sometimes I had a few one-night stands, but I still loved my wife, and I never lapsed any time else." St. Peter gives him a moderately expensive car. The third man says, "I'm sorry to say this, but I was incredibly unfaithful. I had affairs every week." He gets a bicycle. The 3 men meet a few minutes later. The first guy is crying. The second man asks, "Why are you crying? You have a Rolls Royce." And the first guy says, "Well, I just saw my wife riding by on a skateboard." A man goes to a brothel. The madam welcomes him and says that there's currently a lot of free women and he can do the deed with all of them. The man is very happy with the suggestion and takes the deal. The next day, after such a steamy night, he decides to go back. The madam welcomes him and says that right now only 1 girl is available. Well, the man was a little upset, but it's better than nothing. After another happy night, he decided to come back again. The madam welcomes him yet again and says, "Oh, sorry, we have no one available right now." The man is clearly upset and keeps asking, maybe he could wait. The madam says, "Well, there is one unpopular choice. You can do it with a badger." Since the man is really feeling the need, he decides why the hell not and took the deal and did the deed with the badger. As a loyal client, he decided to come back tomorrow. The madam welcomes the man but says, "Oh, sorry, there are no girls available. The customer got upset. But hey, what about the badger?" The madam says, "Sorry, even he is taken, but the brothel is introducing a new activity. Watch from the two-way mirror how other clients do the deed with the ladies." The man agrees to try it out. In the room, there are many spectators, and the couple being watched are going really rough and hard. The man pokes another client and says, "Hey, look, what a show." The fellow man smiles and replies, "That's nothing. You should have seen the guy the other night doing it with a badger." Somehow I get the feeling that even if I'm not specifically using the naughty words, that this video might get demonetized anyway? Let's test it out, I guess. A young Greek couple are about to get married, and before the nuptials, the young woman's mother pulls her aside for a quick chat. And Greek men are known to prefer making love in a very specific way. So at some point, he may ask you to turn around. Now, I want you to know that it's okay to say no if you don't want to do it that way. The wedding day comes and goes, and there's no turnaround request from her husband. No request on the honeymoon, nor through their first year. No special request for their first anniversary or their second. Halfway through their 3rd year, her husband says, "You know, if you want, you can turn around and we can try this a different way." The woman says, No. My mother warned me that this day might come and she told me I'd never have to do that if I don't want to." The husband replies, "Well, that's fine with me, but I thought you wanted kids one day." A man is leaving town for a business trip. Knowing he'll be gone for a few weeks, he decides to treat his wife to a new adult toy to keep her satisfied until he returns. However, looking around the local shop, he doesn't see anything that he thinks she'll like. At that point, the shop owner approaches and says, "If you're having trouble deciding, may I show you one of our special items?" "Sure," says the man thankfully. The owner takes out a box from behind the desk labeled Voodoo Wang and explains that it'll fit any hole and do anything you need it to using voodoo magic. The man is skeptical, so he asks for a demonstration. Happy to oblige, the owner says, "Voodoo Wang, my hand." At once, the previously inanimate object springs to life and starts moving back and forth in the owner's hand as if he were giving it a pull job. "Voodoo Wang, the door," he continues and points to the entrance. The magic toy flies to the door, shrinks to the size of the door's keyhole, and starts going to town. "Now," cautions the owner, "this is the important part. Once it starts, it won't stop until it hears, 'Voodoo Wang, your box.'" On cue, the Voodoo Wang leaves the door, changes back to its normal size, and returns, dormant, to the box. The man is thrilled with his find and buys it for his wife. When it comes time for him to leave, he gives her the new toy and demonstrates how it works like the shop owner did. The wife, very excited about the new toy, thanks her husband and wishes him well on the trip. About a week passes and the wife decides to try out the Voodoo Wang. Removing it from the box, she says, "Voodoo Wang, my hoo-ha!" Well, the Wang doesn't hesitate. Jumping out of the box, it changes size to perfectly fit the woman's body and goes to town. It's fantastic. It does everything she wants it to and knows exactly when to speed up, slow down, get rough, be gentle, you name it. After her second climax, the woman says, "Voodoo Wang, stop!" But nothing happens. Again, she says, "Voodoo Wang, stop!" But still nothing happens. Realizing she forgot the magic phrase, she starts to panic. Grabbing some clothes and her car keys, she makes a mad dash to the hospital to see if they can help her. She's about halfway there when she has a third, massive, full-bodied climax and starts losing control of the car. At this point, a cop sees her driving erratically and pulls her over. "Ma'am, you're driving very recklessly. Care to explain yourself?" Well, she does her best to explain the Voodoo Wang to the police officer, but he's clearly not buying it. "It's the truth," she pleads shakily. "Yeah, right," scoffs the cop. "Voodoo Wang my butt." Bill worked in a pickle factory. He had been employed there for a number of years when he came home one day to confess to his wife that he had a terrible compulsion. He had an urge to stick his pickle into the pickle slicer. His wife suggested that he should see some kind of therapist to talk about it, but Bill indicated he'd be too embarrassed. He vowed to overcome the compulsion on his own. One day, a few weeks later, Bill came home absolutely ashen. His wife could see at once that something was seriously wrong. "What's wrong, Bill?" she asked. "Do you remember that I told you I had this tremendous urge to put my wang into the pickle slicer?" "Oh, Bill, you didn't." "Yes, I did." "My God, Bill, what happened?" "I got fired." "No, Bill, I mean, what happened with the pickle slicer?" "Oh, she got fired too." A man is standing stark bare naked on a street corner. A cop walks up and tells him, "Sir, you can't be doing that here unless you have a good excuse. I'm going to take you to jail." "Yes, sir, I have a good excuse. I was at my girlfriend's apartment, we started drinking. Next thing you know, she jumps up and says, 'Let's take our clothes off and go to town.' I guess I beat her here." Two guys ring the bell of a brothel. The madam opens the door. "What do you want?" "What can we get for $5? "For $5 you can crank each other off in those bushes over there." She shuts the door. A few minutes later, the bell rings again. The madam opens the door and it's the same two guys. "So, who do we pay?" And now, ladies and gentlemen, some nun jokes for your enjoyment. Sister Claire and Sister Teresa are driving down a desert highway when the devil appears on their hood, making threatening gestures. "Quick," Sister Teresa says, "show him your cross." Sister Claire leans out the window, shouting, "Piss off, you wang head! I'll kick you in the frickin' gonads if you try that crap again! Don't mess with me, you prick!" Two young nuns are asked by their Mother Superior to paint a room in their convent, and are sternly warned not to get paint on their habits. To ensure they comply with Mother Superior's order, they decide to remove their clothing and paint in the buck, as the only eyes that will see them will be each other's and those of God. After painting for over an hour, there's a knock at the door. Panicking, the first nun asks, "Who's at the door?" A reply comes in, "It's the blind man. May I come in?" The nuns look at each other. Neither wishes to turn away the blind man. The second nun says, "If the man is blind, he won't see our exposed bodies. We should let him in." The first nun agrees and opens the door to the man. "Nice hooters. Now, where do you want these blinds?" A young man walks up and sits down at the bar. "What can I get you?" the bartender inquires. "I want 6 shots of Jägermeister," responded the young man. 6 shots? Are you celebrating something?" "Yeah, my first go at oral." "Well, in that case, let me give you a 7th on the house." "No offense, sir, but if 6 shots won't get rid of the taste, nothing will." A cop is eating lunch at a diner when he overhears an elderly couple, maybe in their 80s, talking. The man says, "Do you remember this place?" The woman answers, "Of course. Behind this diner is where we first did the deed." The man says, "What do you say we do it again?" The woman giggles and says, "Why not?" And they both get up to leave. The cop was taken aback by this and was curious, so he decided to follow them. He follows them as they slowly walk behind the diner. When they go behind the diner, he decides he will just stay there to make sure no one bothers them. He then watches as the lady slowly lifts her dress and the man grabs his pants. The man grabs the fence in front of him and starts going at it full force, like a stallion with his first mare. The cops were taken aback. This guy seemed to have more stamina than anyone in the world. When they were done, the couple starts walking out of the alley and the cop decides to talk to the man. He had to know how he was able to do that. The cop said, "How are you able to keep going like that, even at your age?" The man smiled and answered, "Well, for starters, 60 years ago, that fence wasn't electric." A man moves into a new town and wants to make friends. He goes to the local bar and orders a drink. The bartender says, "Hey, you're new. You want to try out our bar challenge for new guys?" The man says, "Let me hear it." The bartender then goes and says, "Well, first you need to drink this whole bottle of Patron without stopping. Then you have to juggle these 10 beer bottles. After that, there's a gator outside with a loose tooth. Then there's my poor old sister upstairs that's never had a climax in her life." The man says, "F that, I'm not doing that." But after a few beers, he says, "Give me that Patron," with fire in his eyes. He chugs the Patron, no problem. He juggles the beer bottles with no problem. Then he goes outside to the gator. The occupants then hear the gator roar and scratch the man. They hear groans and moans from the man. Then they hear silence. The man comes back to the bar, still adjusting his pants, and says, "Okay, now where's that woman with the loose tooth?" When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, linked at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot, linked in the description too. Either way, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.